In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a handful of 26-650 lights and comparing their unique features, their outputs, their throw distances, beam patterns, and other specs. And these big batteries offer a nice boosting capacity, so if you're in the market for a new light and don't want something a bit larger and more powerful than the 21700 or 18650 lights that you're probably more familiar with, this video will show you a few different options and help you decide which one is best for you. We're going to be checking out 6 different lights in this video, and if you want to jump to a particular test, there's timestamps in the description and also links to purchase these lights, which will help me grow the channel as well. We're going to kick things off with a very popular flashlight from THRUNITE, which is the CATAPULT V6 SST70, and it's one of the best throwers in its class. So if you're in the market for a light for long distance use, this is a great option to consider. There's some wide crisscross shaped knurling on the tube, and the light has a really wide head. A single side switch controls 5 different output modes plus a strobe, and there's a USB-C input protected by a rubber charging port cover on the side, which can charge the included 5000 mAh battery. CATAPULT V6 has a smooth steel bezel, a huge aluminum reflector, and this upgraded version comes with a luminous SST70 emitter. The CATAPULT V6 SST70 has a max output of 2,836 lumens, a peak intensity of 120,000 candela, and a max beam throw distance of 692 meters, which makes it the best thrower of the bunch. This light has a very tight and intense hotspot, which makes it great for spotting things at distance, and it has a relatively narrow flood angle, so it's really best suited for illuminating exactly what it's pointed towards. The color temperature is on the slightly cool side, and this would be an excellent light for search and rescue and other long-range applications. This is the CONVOY M3, and if you're looking for a really hefty light that's well balanced for mid-range use, this is one of the best lights in the 26-650 class. The M3 has a very large and heavy body with some square-style knurling on the tube. There's a rubber side switch which controls 4 main stepped output modes and also a ramping mode plus a strobe mode, and it has a crenulated bezel with medium-wide short teeth, a very deep orange peel style reflector, and this one has a nice big Cree XHP 70.2 3000K warm emitter, but it can also be purchased in a handful of other neutral and cooler color temperatures. The CONVOY M3 has a max output of 4300 lumens and a throw distance of around 350 meters, and is the warmest light in the lineup, and in my opinion this light creates a fantastic viewing experience, and if you don't own any warm lights currently, they're definitely worth looking more into. The beam angle is on the narrow end, but it does have a relatively large hotspot, and the flood is very bright too. My impression is that the warmer color temperature lights are more discreet than the cooler temperature lights, so if you want to remain less visible, and if you want a light that's good for mid-range use, this would be a fantastic option. This is the THRUNITE TC20 V2, and this is much more of a wide-angle flood-style beam compared to the CATAPULT V6, which makes it great for mid-range use. This light has a rectangular-style knurling pattern on the tube and a metal side switch, which controls 5 different output modes plus a strobe. There's also a USB-C input, which you can use to charge the included 5000 mAh battery. The TC20 V2 has a smooth steel bezel, an orange peel reflector, and a Cree XHP 70.2 emitter, and this is the neutral white version, but you can also pick it up in cool white. The THRUNITE TC20 V2 has a max output of 4068 lumens, a peak intensity of 22,400 candela, and a max throw distance of 299 meters. Again, we're dealing with a very neutral color temperature and a very wide beam angle and a slight hotspot, but it's much more of a floodlight compared to the CATAPULT V6 and most similar to the Wuben, which we'll be taking a look at shortly. The TC20 V2 is doing a great job of not only illuminating the tree, but also the trees in the distance, and it's a great light if you want to be able to see a really wide area at short to mid-range. This is the Mateminco MT01, and it's a great option to consider if you're looking for a more compact 26-650 thrower than the CATAPULT V6, but you still want great performance. This is the gray version, but you can also pick it up in black or blue, and there's some rectangular knurling on the tube. It has a backlit rubber side switch with smooth ramping BLF and rail UI. It has a stainless steel bezel with medium width short teeth, TIR optics, and a single Cree XHP 50.2 6500K emitter, but you can also pick it up in a few other variations. The Mateminco MT01 has a max output of 4600 lumens, a peak intensity of 67,860 candela, and a max throw distance of 521 meters. Remember, we're dealing with the TIR optic lens here, and the beam profile is really unique, and it's able to achieve an excellent throw distance, only second to the CATAPULT V6, which is especially impressive considering that it's quite a bit smaller. The color temperature is relatively cool, and there's a very distinct hotspot here with a relatively wide flood angle, which seems to dissolve very smoothly at the edges, and it's actually pretty well suited for walking on a trail too. This would be an excellent option if you want a longer range light in a relatively compact pocket carry friendly size. Next up we have the Wuben T70, and this is one of the most intense flood style lights in the lineup, so if you want to be able to illuminate a huge up close area, this is probably your best choice. This light has a simple knurling pattern and a rubber side switch, which gives you access to 6 different output modes. There's a USB-C input on the side, which you can use to charge its included 5000 mAh battery. It has a steel bezel with medium width short teeth, an orange pill reflector, and this one also has a Cree XHP 70.2 emitter. The Wuben T70 has a max output of 4200 lumens and a max beam throw distance of 250 meters. It has a relatively large hotspot that transitions to the flood very smoothly, and it has one of the widest beam angles of the bunch, but it's still doing a great job of illuminating the trees in the distance, and is very comparable to what we saw with the THRUNITE TC20 V2. The color temperature is on the cooler side, and everything it's pointed towards really pops. The T70 is also a great light for walking on a trail, and it really provides a nice balanced light for close to mid-range use. This is the Folomov 26650S, and if you're looking for a compact 26650 light, this is the smallest option in the lineup. The design is very simple, and there's some crisscross knurling on the tube and a rubber clicky switch on the tail, which controls 5 different output modes. There's no charging port on this light, but it does come with a 5000 mAh battery with a micro USB charging port. The light has 5 Cree XPG2 emitters. The Folomov has a max output of 2000 lumens, a peak intensity of 11,670 candela, and a max throw distance of 260 meters. Even though it has the lowest output of the lights here, it's still plenty bright, and the hotspot is large and not very well defined, and kind of melts into the flood of the light, which is the best out of the lights we have here. The color temperature seems to be pretty close to neutral, and overall this would be a great light for camping due to its compact size and high short range visibility, and the wide flood makes it great for walking on a trail. Here's a side-by-side look at how these lights compare on turbo. The THRUNITE CATAPULT V6 definitely has the most intense hotspot of the bunch, followed by the Mateminco, and the Folomov definitely is the best flooder, and the THRUNITE TC20 V2, the Wuben T70, and the CONVOY M3 are well suited for mid-range use. For the medium mode comparison, I went ahead and picked a mode with a decent balance of output and runtime that I think people would use most often. The THRUNITE CATAPULT V6 has a 270 lumen mode with a 9-hour runtime, and this is good if you need to be able to quickly transition to long distance use, and the throw is still excellent even though the output is relatively low. The only downside is that it's not going to be able to provide you with as good a visibility on the ground when you're walking as the other lights, so just keep that in mind if you plan to use it for walking. The CONVOY M3's different output levels are not stated, but it does have a mode that appears to be about 400 lumens, and you'd probably get about 5 to 6 hours of runtime, and it's more than enough light for the situation, and the beam angle is adequate, and it would be really easy to transition to see things further off in the distance. The THRUNITE TC20 V2 has a 320 lumen mode with a 9-hour runtime, and this is another very well balanced light for mid-range use due to its combo wide angle and large size spot beam. The runtime is great on this mode and should last you the night, and is much better suited for this type of use compared to the CATAPULT V6. The Mateminco MT01 has smooth ramping and real UI, so you can adjust the output variably to find a mode that suits your circumstances just right. I really like this setup because it does give the user maximum control, but the downside is the runtimes are a bit of a mystery, so you just need to plan accordingly and perhaps carry a spare battery to be on the safe side. The Wuben T70 has a 400 lumen mode and a 7.5 hour runtime, and this is definitely one of the best lights for this type of situation because the beam angle is so wide, and it gives you excellent visibility everywhere in the general direction that the light is pointed towards. The Folomov 26650S has a 400 lumen mode with a 7-hour runtime, and this is another excellent light for walking on a trail due to its extremely wide angle and evenly diffused beam pattern. The con to this style light is that it's not going to be as effective for long-range use. Now we're going to be taking a look at each of these lights on their lowest output modes, so you can see what those look like along with their maximum runtimes. The CATAPULT V6 has an incredibly low moonlight mode with a 0.3 lumen output and a max runtime of 1,680 hours, which is about 70 days, which is excellent and would be very useful for a long-term power down situation. The CONVOY M3 has a low mode, and the output and runtime isn't stated, but it appears to be around 3 lumens, and my guess is that it would last about a few hundred hours on this mode. The beam would be very comfortable for a task like reading. The THRUNITE TC20 V2 has a 0.3 lumen mode with a 1704 hour runtime, which is about 17 days, which is a little over 2 months. This would be one of the best lights to use for an extended grid down emergency situation. The Mateminco MT01 has a really low moonlight mode, and though the specs on this mode aren't stated, it does appear to be pretty similar to the THRUNITE lights, if not slightly less bright, and my guess would be that the runtime would be close to 2 months as well. The Wuben T70 has a 40 lumen mode with a max runtime of 35 hours, and this is probably a higher output than you need for reading, but it would be great for walking around inside of your home. The Folomov has an 80 lumen mode with a 60-hour runtime, and this is another great mode for walking in your house, but it would be nice to see a lower output mode that would be more suitable for reading. Here's a side-by-side view of the moonlight modes, and the 2 THRUNITE lights and the Mateminco deliver a true moonlight mode that's a very low output with excellent runtimes, and the Folomov, the Wuben, and the CONVOY are slightly overpowered for this type of use and could probably benefit from a lower output to be a bit more well-rounded. Here's a look at the lengths of these lights in millimeters, and their weights are in ounces, including the batteries. The CONVOY M3 is the longest at about 148 millimeters, and also the heaviest at about 13.4 ounces, which is just a few ounces shy of a pound. The Folomov 26650S is the shortest by a long shot at about 99 millimeters, and the most lightweight at about 6.82 ounces. The Folomov, the Mateminco, and the TC20 would be the best options for pocket carry, and the other lights would definitely be on the heavy side to be comfortable to pocket carry. Let me know what 26650 lights are your favorite in the comments, and if you want to pick one up and help support the channel, you can find links in the description below, and if you want to check out some more flashlight comparisons like this one, you can find links to those videos down in the description as well.